Suleiman, you had a question.
I was only going to make a point about, you were talking about
Nick Griffin.
BNP, yeah, exactly. I'm 44 years of age. When I was about 11, 12, we had a thing called the NF, British Movement. Now, how many years after now, those same people have formed a party, or party of a party, who have representation in Europe and in the government here. So I wouldn't really say that it's going to blow away. I wouldn't really say that from what I've seen from my own life experience. So I think we have to be mindful of that. And also look at past experience of this country from the, I would say, post-war, to look at what the future of it's going to be. Because a lot of it repeats itself. And we're in a time of recession, depression, and a lot of undesirables, so to speak, will rear their heads and people will be attracted to those silky words. So I think we have to really be mindful of a different society, a changing society now. Society that's hurting, skint, you know, no money, depression, kids who are leaving university, no prospects, not because they haven't learned anything in university, because there's nothing out there for them. So in that climate, people get desperate.
I take your point that we have to be vigilant, and that's why education is important in particular. But I would stress that yes, when you were young, there was a national front. Before that, there were I think the black shirts. Mosley, and we know what happened to him in the 1960s. And I think you can never eradicate such a grain. That will always be there. But so long as it's isolated, I think that we don't need to fear that it's going to enter the public stream, unless, of course.
But it is in the public stream. We've seen it on BBC. They're in Europe. They've got representation in Europe. It is in the public stream.
But that's more of a development of the structures that have come about. And I think if we're going to take this country as an example, I think, well, let's look at the rest of Europe. Because we have to. I think we have to. Look at France. France had Le Pen. Le Pen went to the second round of the national presidency. That's a different level. That's like, you know, maybe it's because we have a different political structure, so, you know, we don't have a presidency and one man can't rise that high. But he had a lot of popular support. Italy, Berlusconi, he runs that country with an iron grip, and he has far-right elements in his group. You know, there's a mayor, I think, in Rome, who just decided carte blanche to wipe out all the immigrants in the area who were like selling stuff on the streets. You know, you see immigrants, gypsies. The way the Italians treat the gypsies in that country, the way they just move them off. Here we debate what we're going to do about the gypsies. You know, while we're putting them into a location. In those countries, they just get the armed forces just to move them out. So I think that there's more layers of debate before we can get to that extreme point. I would not downgrade the negative impact of the British National Party, but I just do not see it as a way of the future in this country. I think the young people, especially in a cosmopolitan city like London, where there's so much mixture, where there's so much, I mean, I've got Vietnamese friends, I've got mixed race friends, I've got friends all over the spectrum. And before we start going to hitting the streets on racial lines, you know, there needs to be a few barriers, there needs to be a few atrocities perpetrated before we enter that. And the key thing is to try and keep those atrocities at bay.
But
Yeah, but don't you think that there is a greater need now, bearing in mind the growth of the National Party for more ethnic minority, not basing it on race alone, but there's a need for the minority to come together more and to be stronger because this force is building up?
There's always a need for the black community or the Jewish community or the Muslim community.
People who don't usually go out to vote, there is now a need, a greater need
yes.
for them to get together to try and keep this force, like you say, you know.
Exactly, because if they don't, other interests will come into play. That's what happened with the BNP. The BNP, the problem was that what you would say the white population in those areas were so dissatisfied with the central government that they sat back. And when they sat back, other people with other ulterior interests entered into the spectrum. You see, and that's why interest is so important. That's why identifying your interest is important. That's why you have to go and vote.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Siobhan?
I was just going to say as well that I think the whole BNP and question time, I think that brought to like a lot of kind of like bad things in terms of the younger generation, because I think I've known about kind of politics and that kind of thing since I was younger, because I think, you know, I've just had that ability. But a lot of the young people in the area, like people my age and even older than me, I'm 16. I said to them, you know, the BNP is going to be in question time. Like, oh, what's the BNP? Is it the black bar? I was like, it's nothing to do with representing black people. It's completely the opposite.
Black National Party.
Yeah, it's one of those things that was on question time that people have actually started to realise. And even, I was watching the news and the protests, the people that were protesting, a lot of them were the indigenous population.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, you know, I expected to see people from more ethnic minorities and things like that. But from that kind of like, I don't feel that we're kind of forming a strong enough force. I feel that especially the younger generation, where it's more important because, you know, we are the future. I think we need to educate we need to educate the younger people more in terms of politics and the relation it has to their life, and also to do with school. I think you mentioned earlier kind of like how some people aren't achieving that well in school. I think there's this whole mentality as well with young people, is the here and now, like doing things, making money illegally. That's the here and now. I want money now. I'm going to make it now. I'm not going to wait for the future. And I think that a lot of young people, not until they've left school, they don't kind of realise that there is a future and that they can aim to do something rather than just live in the here and now. So I think we really need to reach out to the young people in that way as well.